Thank you for visiting Past the Wire TV, the YouTube channel of PastTheWire.com. Welcome to Past the Wire TV. Hopefully a great handicapping preview show with Dawn, Lupul, and myself. Winning your in races at Woodbine, some big races at the Big A, or Belmont at the Big A, as they want to call it. Call it what you want. It's still Aqueduct to me. We'll see how it is to Dawn in a minute. A lot of great stuff coming up. We've got some great Breeders' Cup coverage coming up on Past the Wire and Past the Wire TV. We will be on scene, bringing a lot of exclusive information to you. Our Breeders' Cup seminar information is up on PastTheWire.com. I'll put a link in the comments of this video as well for those of you that are interested. And we'll be back in a minute with Dawn and get into some of the interesting races on Saturday. Thanks for tuning in, and we hope you enjoy the show.
Trips with Pick 6 King John Stettin. It's one of the best tools in horse racing for any level of player. It's your second set of eyes, spotting troubled trips, betting angles, track trends, horses to watch and favorites to fade, 10 figs, ticket structure, and more. At Tracking Trips, you're a friend with benefits. Not a member? You must hate winning money. Join Tracking Trips now. Visit PastTheWire.com and we'll see you in the winner's circle. Remember, nobody does it better.
Okay, like we said when we finished our Saratoga shows, Dawn and I are back. Pretty big day of racing. Breeders' Cup is coming. We've got some winning your in races at Woodbine, correct?
That's correct. Yeah, it's a busy Saturday kind of everywhere.
We've got some big races at they want to call it Belmont at the Big A. It's still Aqueduct. And that's not a bad thing. I love Aqueduct. You know, I grew up going to Aqueduct. Okay. And you know, Belmont, Aqueduct, Saratoga, all three of them, those were the NYRA tracks, and I know every inch of each one of them like the back of my hand, you know.
Yeah,
I remember the most interesting thing about Aqueduct to me, the first memory that comes to mind is one, the stairways had the strongest smell of marijuana that you could ever possibly imagine. Okay, you didn't have to smoke, you could walk in there and absolutely get high. I mean, you could barely sometimes see through the smoke. But the most interesting thing, the biggest challenge in the winter going to Aqueduct, and you could probably relate to this being at Woodbine, was being able to walk from your car to the track on that black ice, because the pavement in the parking lot was black, and it would be like a thin sheet of ice without falling and breaking your neck. That was the biggest challenge. It was harder to do that than to catch some winners. You know, and they raced back then in the freezing cold, snow, sleet. I mean, you name it. I mean, for them to cancel, it was really, really bad. You know,
they hardly track and dig it up. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, it's Aqueduct. Let's just call it Aqueduct. I don't know why they want to confuse people with the Belmont and Aqueduct, but it's
right. Well, at least one good thing I will say for Formulator, and I wasn't sure at first because they have it in the past performances as BAQ in bold with the stats.
Yeah.
And you know, I always look at horses for courses and how horses have performed fast over a track, but they are the Aqueduct stats. It's not like, you know, so they're just calling it BAQ, which can be a little confusing. to some people, but they're the Aqueduct stats, so they are relevant, and at least they have the right stats in there, calling it what they want. But I like that. But hey, the racing is good.
Yeah, it's decent. Friday, so we're doing this Friday. Today's card not so great, but I mean that'll happen. It's that time of year.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. It's the $1 million, what is it called? Jockey Club Derby, restricted to 3-year-olds only. $1 million, a mile and a half, only gets 6 horses.
I know.
I mean, you would think there would be more I don't think there's any other chance to run against straight 3-year-olds for $1 million this year. So you would think they'd have 12 in there,
And what does the race look like if you don't get like the German horse ships over and Applebee's left Nation's Pride here? I mean, if you don't have those 2 euros in there, does it even go? It's pretty sad otherwise.
Right. No, it certainly is. And, we might as well start talking about that one. And,
okay.
I thought, it was very tough for me, even recognizing that Classic Causeway gets a switch to Pratt again, will, be, the controlling speed, but I couldn't get past Nation's Pride. I just think he's a better horse. And I think, you brought out something interesting when he won. You liked him a lot when he won with William Buick. And you had a joke, well, they fired the Tory, Buick, they're going to win. And they did win. And now the Tory's back on him. So I said, okay, he's going to look at the form and say, you know what? William stayed a lot closer to this horse than I did and ran him down. Small field. I think he stays close and doesn't let him get away and just beats him.
I shouldn't have been so mean to Frankie, but no, it wasn't really his fault. I mean, the draw was completely different too, right? Like
right. It was totally different race.
Yeah. And obviously William was much closer in with post 4. So no, Frankie's all right. William Buick's actually up here in Toronto on Saturday. So yes, that's, Frankie, William, they're world-class riders. Let's put it that way. I do like that horse. I gave a lot of consideration in this race though to the 6-horse Artican. I really like the way that he ran. So 3 back in the Italian Derby. I mean, that was like just a really professional kind of move that this horse made. He was the favorite, so he was expected to win there. The German Derby was kind of a complete disaster. It just didn't work out for him. And maybe he was in a little bit too tough for himself too. I don't know. But the last start I thought was pretty good. So, he provides an interesting alternative. But the advantage has to go to Nation's Pride, doesn't it? Just the fact that he's been here, in North America now and kind of acclimatized and everything else. So yeah, I kind of like him again.
Yeah, no, I agree. It was very, very tough for me to get past him. I looked at the German horse, obviously, and I looked at Classic Causeway, and I mean, Nation's Pride, when you look at him, the only really subpar race he ever ran was in the Epsom Derby. And every other time he's shown up, and it was just very, very tough for me to get past him at all. He's going to be really, really short, but sometimes it just is what it is. A lot of people will bet in a manner where, well, I really like this horse, but I don't like him at that price. And I understand that logic, but sometimes I just can't get myself to bet against a horse. I'd rather pass the race than bet against a horse I just think has, a very high probability of winning, unless I'm getting really, really ridiculous odds, and you're not going to get that big of a price on the German horse or Classic Causeway. So
no, not in this field. I mean, you can always try to you check the probables and see if there's maybe a double you can flip that you like, or an exacta or something. But to bet against the horse just because it's low odds that doesn't make sense to me. I mean, you still have to have a concrete handicapping opinion about it.
Yeah, and we agree on that. And a lot of bettors, and some really good bettors, don't agree with us. They think that, you just go for the price. If a horse is too low, you just don't bet him. And I've for a long time, I've had a hard time betting against my own opinion. If I think a horse is going to win, no matter what the price is, whether he's 20-1 or 2-1 or 4-5, doesn't matter. If that's who I think is going to win and I'm going to bet, I want to bet who I think is going to win. and just find a way to get value out of it if it happens to be a short price. Otherwise, I'd rather just watch the race.
And save the
I
bankroll.
don't like betting against my own opinion.
No, psychologically, that just does something to you when you lose. Inevitably, you lose. And you say, "Why did I do that?" You know, you may as well just take that money out and go buy yourself a nice lunch or something.
Yeah,
instead of throwing it away.
Yeah, I don't bet that way. But there are a lot of good bettors and good gamblers that would disagree with us and argue that all day long. But you know, what works for you is what matters.
Yes.
The other race. The Jockey Club Oaks Invitational, 1 mile 3/8. That one's a $700,000 purse. Also only drew 6 horses. And again, I'm very surprised at that. With the races being restricted to 3-year-olds, I would think if you've got a 3-year-old and it's your last chance to run against straight 3-year-olds later in the year like this, for that kind of money, you almost got to do it. But I guess not. We got another heavy favorite there, McCulloch. I was able to get around her and go with somebody else. And I like the horse that won the German Oaks, Toscana Belle.
Yeah, I really like her. Yeah.
I mean, I watched the German Oaks twice last night. And the way I saw it, I'm not really sure what was behind her, but she went wire to wire. She went, on the pace in a big field. She looked really, really good visually. Some of the race was uphill. I love horses that are able to race uphill, then come back to a level, firmer course, which I'm assuming this will be. And when they hit the stretch and she accelerated, she had a really nice burst to get away from them. And when the 2 horses at the end came towards her, one was on the far outside. I'm not sure if she even saw that horse, but she probably felt it. The other one was a little closer. She was really game. I mean, she dug in and extended and reached for the wire. I like her. I don't think, based on watching her, that she absolutely needs the lead. I think she can sit off another horse and run well. And I think she definitely gets the jump on McCulloch and can give her a handful to be able to reel in.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I liked it when I was watching her, as I watched it too. And, she's just like ears pricked the whole way down the backside. And she got tested early. It's not like she was just sitting there out front. I mean, there was a couple that went at her early enough and they finished far back. So she put away those ones. And then the closers came and did make a run. And it wasn't, a couple jumps off the wire. And I'm not sure she's there anymore. I'm pretty sure she isn't. But still, she did it all. When you can take command like that. And I think she'll sit a good trip in here. I really do. I agree with you. I don't think she needs the lead.
Yeah, no, we're certainly on the same page. And let me tell you, I've been watching Andreas Waller bring German horses into the United States for a long time. A lot of times they don't get the respect and recognition that the UK and the Ireland and the French horses do. But often they're competitive, especially in really long races. So I'm not knocked off my opinion by that at all. She's 3 for 5 lifetime, and that's where I land. And McCulloch is a nice filly, no question. But she's
a Frankel, right? I mean, she's bred to get the distance. It shouldn't be an issue.
Yeah, no, she's bred, but she's been second best 3 out of 6 times. So it's not like you can't beat her if you get the jump on her, so I'm kind of hoping that happens. I didn't really see anyone else that I could get there. It was those 2 for me, but it's
a function of odds too, right? Like if McCulloch is 4 to 5 in the morning line and Toscana Belle is 7 to 2, then it's kind of a no-brainer. But I'm not sure it's going to be such a disparity. I think the odds might be a little bit closer because everyone's looking for an alternative. And when you see 4 to 5 in the morning line right away, you're trying to beat that. So maybe she goes off at 7 to 5 and the other one goes off at 9 to 5. And then I'm not so sure that I'm, overly excited about taking a huge stance against McCulloch. So it really depends on the odds at post time.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I think she's going to get her share of attention Bell. And like you said, people are going to be looking for an alternative. And to me, she's really the only one that really makes any sense. I mean, maybe some people might go to the Pletcher horse with Pratt, thinking that maybe she can go wire to wire. I don't know. I liked her last time. She's one of the few winners I had at Saratoga. 8-1 was really generous, but I don't think she can do it against these kind, at least not right now.
It's almost like the race office begged, like, please, Belmont, please give us something, please, Clement, please enter something in here. We want this race to go, like, because the rest of the field's a little bit on the weak side.
Yeah, no, same thing in the other race. I mean, you got a couple of horses in the other race that are just, completely overmatched. I mean, Joe Shaw, claimer in there, they had to beg him to put Wicked Fast in there, I mean, sometimes those horses win. Horses will fool and humble everybody at some point, but
you still get a chunk of change if you're finishing, even if you're periphery and you're finishing third or fourth, that's a big payday.
No
for
question.
that kind of money. Yeah.
Yeah. There was another horse on the card that I would mention that is probably going to be a price, get a little bit overlooked. And I thought can step up and run a big race, and that was in the 8th race. Maritime Wings, Pletcher's horse. That's second time Pletcher, second time Lasix, cutting back in a race that's got a ton of speed in it, at least on paper. Joseph O'Brien had this horse originally. Winds up with Todd now, only one start for Todd, a little bit of a middle move in a longer race, and just in my opinion winds up second time Pletcher in a race that's just, to me, crying for a closer. Todd does do very well with horses he gets from other trainers, even good other trainers like Joseph O'Brien. He's gotten horses from Baffert that he's done exceptionally well with. So I was just looking for a closer, and I thought, there were enough angles on that horse to lead me there, especially in multi-race wages where you've got a lot of short prices that are going to be tough to get around. At least, she might be able, or rather he might be able to, create a little separation and make a ticket worthwhile. If he can get up.
I wish it was 7 furlongs. So I'm
that's what I was just going to say. I agree.
A little concerned about the 6.
I do wish it was 7, but it's not. And the horse did run in some races early in his career to some decent horses. I think he's got a shot if he runs back to some of those better European races and goes forward for Todd a little bit here. Yeah,
the late pick 5. I mean, we already mentioned that it's not looking overly, like, you've got Expressman in race number 9, the Pletcher horse. It's 2-5 on the morning line, with a 107 buyer in his debut race. Like, I mean, that you play against him, but I don't see a reason to. So you're just looking at some pretty short prices there. I got a little bit more interested in the first half of the card. Not that there's any big marquee races there, but I thought there was an interesting chance to beat a horse that's likely to be a short price in race 4. And I'm not going to pick on Rudy. Rudy's eventually going to start winning races again, but he's sending out It's All Relevant, the 8 horse in race 4. Looks like the lone speed. You got the Apprentice Gomez aboard. Looks like he'll be able to go, but I'm hoping that you get a horse run him. I hope the 2-horse Devious Mo is going to show a little bit of speed in there, and Devious Mo, and kind of take an edge out of him. I actually am looking at the 6-horse Dark Storm as a possible alternative for Cantor Machi. So I don't know. There's just not, like, there's some really good races at Belmont at Aqueduct on Saturday, but some of them for betting aren't fabulous.
Yeah, no, I agree. And there are some really interesting races in your neck of the woods.
There are.
At Woodbine.
True.
You got a Godolphin invasion going on as well.
Wonder if they all shipped together. There's a bunch of Euros in North America this weekend. Maybe they all came over together. Who knows? But well, so it's a big day, right? Because there's 3 win and you're in races for Breeders' Cup. The Natama for the fillies came up, I think, extremely weak. That's race number 10 at Woodbine. I mean, Graham Motion sending up G. Laurie, and she isn't much, and she actually looks like she could be a big factor. So I'm the Natama. I really didn't look at that closely. The Woodbine Mile is pretty solid. That goes as race number 9, and it's $1 million purse. It's of course, like you said, the Euro invasion. I was looking at Paulo Lobo's horse a little bit, the 2-horse Ivar in there. I like Lobo. His horses are running right now, like really, really running. So he was a consideration. Obviously, the 5-horse Modern Games. Everybody remembers Modern Games from last year with the scratch at the Breeders' Cup, and then he went and won, and people were irate, as they should have been. I mean, he's a nice horse. So it's going to be really tough to get past him at what looks like a pretty skinny price, and that's where our William Buick shows up to ride that one.
Yeah, I looked at 3 horses in that race, and ultimately I decided at a very short price, Modern Games was going to be tough to beat. I will say this: in the Prix-Jean Prat at Deauville, he was very flat. He just really, he had no excuse. He just really was flat, and I thought it was a discouraging race because I thought it was his third start back. And he was really, I thought sitting on a big race. And I remember watching it and just saying, I don't know, but he did come back and then run very, very well to Bahid, who we know is
superstar
and more. He ran very, very well. So I guess he just might not have liked Deauville, might not have been his day, whatever the case may be. But it looks like, now maybe we may finally see his best. I look at Ivar as well. I've met Ivar. I interviewed Paulo Lobo, and then I spoke with him at the Breeders' Cup last year and met Ivar personally, and he became one of my favorite horses because he is as mean can be. He bites, he kicks, he's not friendly. You can't give him a peppermint. You know what I mean? He's just a mean, tough, ready to fight with anybody horse. And I love horses like that, especially when they're race horses. I mean, he's super competitive. He's mean. You know what I mean? He's mean. You got to be heads up when you even go near him to say hello. He'll charge you. He'll bite you, anything. He's nice to Paulo. But the groom is very careful with him. I can tell you that. And I saw quick right away to be careful with him. So I like him. I think he's talented. On his best day, he can make a lot of noise. I think he will like Woodbine. And you probably have more insight into this than I do. But Woodbine is one of those horses that, to me, certain horses like it, certain horses don't. I tend to think European horses like it and get over it well and do well there. Some of the horses from here in the States don't. But I think Ivar will like that kind of course. And the other horse I was looking at was the other one that comes in from across the pond.
Final Sound.
Yeah, I think that's his
Christopher
name.
horse. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I thought he might also like Woodbine, and she's probably a cut below some of the better horses, but he does have some good races on his resume that are okay. He's probably not as good as Modern Games and would really have to run a career race to win, but it is Simon Crisford. Andreas Azzini, I think, is a very, very good jockey and very capable and kind of a little under the radar, so to speak. But I think he is actually a world-class rider. If you watch him and check him out when he gets a live opportunity, he'll put the horse in position, and I think he can get down and ride. But those were the 3 that I looked at. But again, lean heavily to the favorite Modern Games. I think he's going to be a handful.
Yeah, it looks like an Appleby kind of a day, because then we've got the other Breeders' Cup winning year in race, and that's the 7th race this summer for the 2-year-old colts going a flat mile. That's the thing about Woodbine. You mentioned the course, so it's a 1-turn wide sweeping 1 mile configuration, and these Euros get it. Charlie Appleby, he's done so well at Woodbine. I looked up a stat because I was just kind of curious. So in the last 5 years, he's run 7 times at Woodbine, all grade 1s, and he's won 5 of them. So he knows what kind of horses to send over. He hasn't won the Woodbine Mile, which is interesting, but he hasn't run in it. And I'm not sure why. I think that's because maybe the mile distance is just not something that he targets his horses for a whole lot. But he obviously looks like this year that he can be the winner of the Woodbine Mile with Modern Games. But so he's sending Mysterious Night over, and you've probably seen that horse run a little bit keen. I like that Buick. So Buick knows him well, obviously. He's ridden him in all of his starts. I love the Dark Angels. I think some of them are very talented, some of them not so much, but this one looks like he's got a lot going for him. Super flashy bay, got tons of chrome on him, and keen as can be. That's going to be the thing. Like, obviously all these colts are stretching out to a distance of a mile for the first time. They've all been sprinting, but he's been arguing with Buick. Like, you watch him in the races, and William, he gave him his head 2 starts before, like the start before his last, and then he got caught late. So last time he didn't break all that sharp, and it gave William a chance to take him to the back and to make him sit behind other horses. He wanted out. William tucked him back in. He was getting turf in the face and everything. It was straight course at Deauville. When he finally took him out to the outside, the colt just really responded well. But I thought it was a really good educating moment for him. I think there's tons of talent there, but I guess if there's anything to be worried about, because he's going to be an extremely short price in there, is that he gets too keen and goes too quick early, because they're all stretching out, so you tend to get fast fractions early. And if William can't get him to relax from the inside post position too, that could be a problem.
I agree with everything you said, and my takeaway, my notes from his last race were very educational race. Should get a lot out of it. Any other way you can go in there? Any other horses that kind of get on your radar? I mean, Philip, my dear, obviously is 2 for 2, likes Woodbine. He's got that look of a horse that's not going to mind a 1-turn mile at all.
No, he's professional too. He knifed between horses last time. Like, he comes from off of the pace. So, and I do think that the mile suits him. I don't think he wants to go super far. Maybe 8.5 furlongs would be his outer limits in terms of pedigree and everything. But yeah, I think he's okay. And of course, Chad Brown, you have to look. Chad's sending a praise up north. The first start was pretty good. His maiden race, I wasn't so excited about his race after that when he was in the Skidmore. It says light bump in the comment line. I mean, whatever. He just wasn't as good as Oxymore, and he wasn't as good as No Name Hudson that day. Private Creed came back to win. So I think he just finished 4th behind some horses that he's maybe not as good as, but he's not out of place in this race. And maybe that little bit of experience. You got Manny Franco up here riding. So he would be my other kind of look.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I watched the head on to see, if that bump was enough to, really say it was a legit excuse. I didn't think so. But I do think that he will improve in this start, and I think he will improve stretching out to that 1-turn mile. I think those other 2 races were really fast, and he might not just be that fast, and might be better at a slower pace, going that 1-turn mile. So I thought he was probably the biggest danger to the Appleby horse.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, other than those 3, again, the rest of them just look a little bit like they're in a different league. So unless if there's a huge upset, because those things do happen, from time to time. But a lot of the races we talked about today seem to be more or less formful, which is okay too. It's okay. It's not a bad thing. Sometimes you can still shake money out of it, and you turn an even odds horse into a 3-1 or 4-1 exacta. That can be okay, or a double, same thing. You can still make money on cards like these.
No, I agree. And another good takeaway, at least something that I'll look for in races like this, and we can use Mysterious Night as an example. Mysterious Night's going to be a very short price, and it's a Breeders' Cup winning you're in race. So I'll watch, that horse very closely, and that horse may win, but you may see something in that race that makes you say, you know what, this is going to be a short price in the Breeders' Cup, and maybe I don't want to bet him. Maybe you saw something that's going to signal some vulnerability to you in the Breeders' Cup that other people won't see, or people that are not watching the race will just see the past performances that he won and say, oh, wow, look at this horse. But meanwhile, you watched it and saw something that you think may, play against him in the Breeders' Cup, or see somebody run behind him that you think can turn the tables. So, it's not all about betting and making money to me on Saturday. You know what I mean? There's always that angle to look ahead and find something that you can take with you to another day and capitalize on. So a lot of these races, people will say, oh, well, they're terrible betting races because, the favorite. Well, okay, but that doesn't mean they're terrible races, because there's so much you can get out of them just by paying attention, taking your notes, and looking for something that you can take forward and capitalize on that somebody else might not see. And that's how you get an edge, really, in the sport today, in my opinion, because there's so much information out there. The past performances are so detailed now. The stats are so detailed. There's so many different speed figures and so many different things that. How do you get an edge? How do you see something that somebody doesn't see? With your own eyes. That's the best way to do it, in my opinion. So, these races are great for that, if nothing else.
Yeah, totally agree. And that's, you mentioned Mysterious Night. That's the key with him. If he doesn't relax going the mile, it's going to be a concern going forward, even if he just totally overpowers, because he's just that much better than the rest of them that are in there, because it doesn't look like a very deep field behind him. Then that is something you want to take note of. Is he learning to be a racehorse, or is he just going to be a kind of a crazy, unrideable, one-dimensional speedball type, which is not a good thing if he is.
Right. So I guess it's safe to assume that if he does win or runs well, he'll point to the Breeders' Cup turf at a mile and a 16th, I guess. Modern Games, I guess, will go in the mile. I wasn't sure whether he was going to point for the Breeders' Cup turf or the Breeders' Cup mile. I guess he'll point for the mile. And one thing I will say now, the mile and the 16th turf races at Keeneland are very, very much influenced by the draw.
Yeah.
Short run to that first turn.
Yeah.
Make
definitely.
no mistake about it. And when you're drawn outside, especially the mile, but even the mile 16th, it's tough. You know what I mean? You could wind up getting a really, really wide trip and losing a lot of lengths. And something else that historically happens there and at Santa Anita, for some reason, there's always some European horse that doesn't take that first turn so good and goes wide. And if you're parked outside that horse, a lot of times you're closer to Churchill Downs than you are to Keeneland going into that first turn, and you're just not going to win. So draw is important, and race riding is important in those races at Keeneland, especially.
Yeah. Definitely.
So that's something to take going forward. Dawn's notes. Have you got them are you going to have them for Woodbine on Saturday or no?
I'm just doing like one, but I've been including some Churchill picks because some of the Aqueduct cards so far haven't been stellar. So I've been handicapping a bit of Churchill, and I'll put a couple of Woodbine picks, just the ones I like. One horse I will mention too, and there is Back to the Mile, just for a moment, because again, what you were just saying about watching these races with an eye for what's going on in the future. There's a horse in the Woodbine Mile. Now all of these trainers are entering because they want to try to get in the Breeders' Cup. Obviously, it's an all expenses paid trip into the Breeders' Cup. It's a good thing. Neil Drysdale has won the Woodbine Mile before. It's been a while, but the fact that he's shipping a Homer screen from California and he's bringing Joe Bravo along too, I noticed that because at first you just kind of look and you say, well, the horse doesn't really stack up against some of the others, but I don't think they're coming all this way because they think they have zero chance. I mean, Drysdale's not a stupid man. So I kind of looked at that horse, even if he's not a win threat, then certainly when you start looking at exactas and trifectas, trying to shake some money out of this race, if Modern Games does win, then a horse like Homer Screen can be a little bit interesting. The Brazilian bred, I don't know. He likes to win. He's 5 for 10. So there's something to be said for that.
I agree. I used to love Neil Drysdale, and I still think he's a great trainer and a great horseman. He's obviously not as active as he used to be, and doesn't, win on at the level that he used to years back. And I go back a long way watching him win with some really, really good horses. But this horse has had some legitimate excuses. He came here from Brazil. First time out, ran in a restricted at stake, but we know a lot of those South American horses need a race to get acclimated. They're on a completely different schedule over there. Then he comes back going 6.5 down the hill, something completely new. Again, another layoff. Runs okay to Braun, who is a Breeders' Cup horse, won and got in at Kentucky Downs. Then ran a good second to Hong Kong Harry, who was on a bit of a roll at that time. Didn't have the best trip that day, was a little crowded, checked a little bit between horses, looked uncomfortable. Then last time, I'm not really sure what happened. I would have liked to have seen him run better, but maybe there's an excuse that we don't see. And like you said, they think enough to bring him here. Bravo's coming after riding him 2 times over there. And his races in Brazil, I don't know against what and against who, but, I said that I liked how European horses take to Woodbine. I could say the same for the South American horses too. I just think Woodbine is a different type of course that, those foreign horses, be it wherever they're from, seem to take to a little bit better than some of the, horses here in the States. So yeah, I think he's a good long shot horse to watch, especially to get a piece.
Yeah, there's a lot of speed in the race too. So, it suits his running style, the way the race is projected to go, I think. So he's not impossible. Again,
Bravo's riding really good,
He is, he's rejuvenated.
He's riding really good. He's putting horses in the right spots. And I always like people in that situation because, obviously he knows it's the latter part of his career. He finally won his first Breeders' Cup race a couple of years ago in the distaff, I believe, at Santa Anita. And, he knows he doesn't have a lot of, Breeders' Cup and Derby shots left. So, he's looking to make the most out of the few that he has. Yeah, he's a savvy veteran that knows how to do that. So he'll.
I interviewed him before, so he won something. I can't remember what it was, but he has won at Woodbine. Right. Happiest guy in the world.
Yeah, no,
Joe, one of the happiest guys you'll ever meet. Yeah, all smiles.
All right. Anything else on the card you want to make anybody aware of?
I think that's it. The Churchill card is pretty strong too. Obviously, you've got Rosario's riding there. So if you're missing him, that's where he is with the Iroquois going. Right. So yeah, they've got, between the two, I'm basically taking, because I spent so much time handicapping Kentucky Downs, which was fun. Doing trip notes at Kentucky Downs is extremely fun, right? Isn't it? It is. But what I looked at it was an investment in time because so many horses you could tell right away they weren't handling the track or they got in terrible trouble. There were a lot of trip notes that came out of there. So that's why I'm playing Churchill a little bit, because if those horses don't surface in New York, then they're going to surface at Churchill, whatever. But I have a ton of horses that I want to play back when they return. So I'm kind of taking, like a few races from Aqueduct, a few races from Churchill, and making a day worth of betting. So
I agree. I've got a list of horses from Kentucky Downs as well that I just thought 2 categories. One had trouble and didn't get over the track, and some looked to me like they were just giving him a race.
Yeah.
You know, just saying, you know, this is a good race to, you know, get fit, give him a race, and then, you know, go for the money next time. And I saw a couple that kind of looked like that to me. So, you know, they're on my list as well. And some of them may even show up in the big races at the Breeders' Cup, or maybe some of the undercard races. And I think Kentucky Downs is a phenomenal course to come off and run well on when you get on a, you know,
a normal track.
Right, yeah, a normal track with one stretch instead of two.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, looking forward. We're going to have a lot of coverage on PastTheWire.com, Past the Wire TV of the Breeders' Cup, and everything leading up to it, including some, you know, backstretch coverage that week, and, you know, maybe some exclusive stuff. We're doing our annual Breeders' Cup seminar. We put the announcement up on Past the Wire this week for that. That's always a lot of fun, and it's a fun time of year, you know.
It is, yeah.
I think there's one more big day at Aqueduct, that Super Saturday, right before the Breeders' Cup, where they have some more in races. I know you've got Pennsylvania Derby Day coming up at Park.
Yeah.
Awesome again at Santa Anita. So there's nothing been decided as of yet. You know what I mean? We're still moving right along, and Flightline is still all the rage.
He's something special. I mean, we talked about him. Was he going to prove anything that day? I don't know. It's just the time he went and the way he looked.
Yeah, you know,
he was impressive.
I will say, I said, you know, we'll find out nothing about him, even if he wins, because he's supposed to win. But the manner in which he won makes me say, well, maybe we did find out a little something. You know what I mean? You know, he really lived up to the hype for sure.
There might not have been much left in behind him, but it's just, I mean, he basically was running in his own race, and he didn't disappoint versus himself.
No. One thing I will say about that race, because I think it's a good point and a good takeaway, and it's something that, you know, I was told by great trainer Bobby Frankel, maybe his that when a horse wins in a very fast time, even easily, even geared down, ears pricked, you know, he had told me never make the mistake of thinking those type of races don't take something out of a horse, and think, oh, well, because it was easy, there was more gas in the tank. Because, you know, how fast do you think they were going to really run if the rider was all out on them? Okay.
Yeah.
Clock doesn't lie. They don't run that much faster than they ran. And when you run fast, even though it may appear he got geared down and, you know, was kind of, you know, cruise control to the wire, running a race like that still takes a toll on a horse, and you've got to worry about how much of a toll and what it does to them going forward. And a lot of people mistake that. They think if a horse wins easy and it looks like visually that they were, you know, within themselves, that it doesn't take something out of them. And, you know, he had taught me a long time ago that, you know, he didn't subscribe to that. He thought that a fast race and a fast number does take a toll on a horse. And I've watched that since he told me that, and I agree with it. I think it proves itself time and time again. So whether it'll affect Flightline or not, we'll see. And, you know, he could probably slow down and still win the Classic, because if he runs 80% of that race he ran last time, you know, they're all probably running for second, but, you know, he still has to do it and make the race. So we'll see.
Yeah, just, yeah, you pay attention to workout videos, or to people who know how to watch workout videos, which can be a whole nother can of worms. But yeah, you have to see how every race, you have to see how a horse comes out of it. It's important. Yeah, you don't want to just automatically assume that because they won that way that there's like 10 years left, because usually the good horses will just run. They'll run to their ability, and I think that's what he did. Even if you had chased him, I'm not sure that he would have gone a lot faster, if at all.
Yeah, I mean, how much faster is he going to go? I mean, you know, I mean, you can just go so fast, you know. But that was an exciting race to watch, and I'm very curious to see what he does in the Classic. So
yes, looking forward to it. It's gonna be fun this year. You're gonna be on site.
I will be on site
working.
Yeah, good Lord willing, I will be on site.
Trying to bet while working.
No, I'll be trying to bet, not working. Listen, I've never had an issue with my priorities. Okay, let's get that straight right away. You know,
Bring a paper
just-
bag in case they don't have one.
is what it is, right? Yeah, no, for sure. Okay, enjoy the races. And are you doing any broadcasting or anything where people can watch you this weekend?
I did a show with Ray Pollock yesterday, which should be airing today, I think, on the Woodbine races. Yeah, we're doing America's Best Racing tomorrow. For the Woodbine Mile, for the Summer Stakes, for the Natalma, and for the Seaward. So it's going to be 4 races, stake, back to back. So yeah, that's my weekend.
All right, sounds good. Enjoy. You know where to find Dawn. You know where to find Dawn's notes. You probably know where to find me. And thanks everybody for tuning in, and ciao for now.
History remembers moments of extraordinary strength, skill, and determination. True greatness is forged by those who fulfill their destiny.
Here with some exciting news. DRF Formulator, the gold standard in past performance information, is now free exclusively on DRF Bets. Join DRF Bets with the promo code WINNING. Get a $250 first deposit match bonus, a $10 free bet, and free Formulator already uploaded to your account. Access Formulator's premium features, including sortable trainer stats, race replays, personalized trip notes, and lots more. Free Formulator exclusively on DRF Bets.
And I thought I knew it all until I started reading Past the Wire. You should read it too.
Thank you for visiting Past the Wire TV, the YouTube channel of PastTheWire.com. It's just about time. We're less than 2 months away from the Breeders' Cup, a little less than that away from the annual Past the Wire Breeders' Cup seminar. Our track record in the Breeders' Cup and all these big days is a track record. Most of you that have attended, you kind of know what we do and how we do it. This year, I'm really looking forward to it. I'm excited about it. Are we going to win? No such. Nobody knows that. Anybody tells you they know that they're full of it. But there are some things we do know. We know nobody is going to outwork us. We know nobody is going to outplay us. We know nobody is going to outprepare us. And we know nobody is going to outswing us. And we know nobody does it better. So live, interactive, replay available. We're going to take some great shots. There are a couple of horses I'm waiting for, especially a couple from Europe that I'm hoping come. There's a couple I believe are coming. There's a couple of horses we're looking to take some stands against too. So going to be a great show. Going to be a great seminar. A lot of insight. You will not be bringing a knife to a gunfight if you show up. Spots limited, so grab yours while you can. Early registration discount, absolutely. Hope to see you all there, and hope to say hello and see a few of you at the Breeders' Cup as well. So ciao for now, and see you soon.
Paulie Tow Truck, Brooklyn, New York. I know John, PastTheWire.com, about 40 years now, and I can tell you something, nobody better than this man. After all, they call him the Pick 6 King, PK6, not because he was Walmart's best shopper of the month. You know what I'm saying? Subscribe. The Breeders' Cup's coming up. PastTheWire.com. Don't show up unarmed.
I'm Chuck Simon, and I read Past the Wire.
nobody does it better.